I'm going to show you how to acquire a multimap in GMS2. So over here we have the autofilter palette, and in the bottom part of that is the automap section. Currently automap is set to the single map mode. To turn on multimapping, I simply select multimap, and the palette changes to show the multimap options. Currently my multimap list is empty. So I'm going to add some things to the multimap list by hitting this button here, Add or Edit Multimap List. So the first thing I want to acquire in my multimap is a T over lambda map. So I click on T over lambda, it adds thickness map to my list, and it also shows me whether the slit is going to be inserted over the Zeros peak. Also, auto exposure and auto binning are selected. I'm also going to acquire some elemental maps. I'm going to acquire nitrogen, oxygen, and also the copper L edge. These get added, and I can have a look at each edge and see where the windows are going to be placed for that edge. Once more, I select auto exposure and auto binning. So I'm going to hit OK at this point. And now acquiring the multimap really is as simple as hit and acquire. I hit acquire and the multimap acquisition starts. So the filter gets configured at 0 EV. The auto exposure routine does the auto exposure and the auto binning. And it soon converges and says for the unfiltered and elastic images for the thickness map, the optimal exposure is ½ second at 1 times binning. So the routine goes off and acquires necessary images for calculating the thickness map. Next, the routine configures itself for the next item in the list, which is the nitrogen K-edge 3 window map. So it puts the filter into the right state with the right slit width and the right energy. Next, it performs the auto exposure and auto binning. And it determines the best exposure for doing this experiment is just over 2 seconds with 8 times binning. So it goes off and it acquires the images required for the 3-window nitrogen map. So now the process is repeated for the next element in the list. The next element is oxygen K, at 532 EV loss. So the routine goes off and automatically acquires the images for oxygen K, each time optimizing the exposure and getting the exposure and the binning right such that we have the optimal number of counts on the CCD for a great elemental map. And then finally, the routine goes and acquires the images required to calculate the copper elemental map. Once more, doing auto exposure. So now the routine has acquired all the images it needs to calculate the T over lambda map and those 3 elemental maps. It puts the filter back into its original state, and now it starts calculating the elemental maps. So the first thing it now does is calculate the spatial drift between all the images. It does that image set by image set and calculates the elemental maps as it goes. So we have our thickness map, our nitrogen map, our oxygen map, and finally our copper map. Once it's done that, it'll automatically save all the reference images, all the source images that were acquired. So I say yes to would you like to save and organize the acquired maps. I specify a folder for the data to be saved in, and it creates a folder with the date and the time and creates a sensible architecture where all those source images are saved, as well as the elemental maps. And then I'm left with elemental maps acquired completely automatically with optimal signal to noise ratio. And that's it. That's F10 multimapping.